Welcome to Financial Investing Radio, where you'll learn the secrets for consistent, high-probability returns in the financial markets for additional income to change your life. Grant applies consistent, high-probability trading systems for the financial markets. He's only recently started sharing these tried and true market secrets. As a gift to listeners, Grant is offering his roadmap to high-probability financial control. Go to financialinvestingradio.com and download yours today. Now, here's your host and trading veteran, Grant Larson.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Financial Investing Radio. I'm Grant Larson, and I'm so excited today because I have a wonderful guest who I actually just recently met. He just came into my life through a shared Facebook group that he and I are in. One of my family members runs a podcast Facebook group, and so it's my daughter, and she turns to me, she's like, "Dad, you got to meet this guy," and so I start interacting with him. His name is Todd Gaster, and Todd starts telling me what he does in the world of financial investing, and I was like, "What? That's insane. That is really cool what he's doing." So I was like, "Todd, please," I was on bended knee. "Todd, please come let me interview you on my podcast." So Todd's been kind enough to take a few moments with us here to share some of his background and some of his experiences and observations. And so let me get started. First, before I say anything, I'll let Todd talk here. Hey, Todd, say hi.
Hey, everybody. First off, thank you, Grant, for having me on your show. It's really a privilege and an honor to be able to speak with you, but also your listeners, and to share my story. So again, thank you for that.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, when did you get started anyway? How did this whole train get started?
It actually started when I was young. I've always had an entrepreneurial buzz, if you will, and background, but I've been fascinated by why people do what they do. I've been fascinated by looking for excellence anywhere. And so the psychology behind why people do what they do, the direction that they're going in their lives, and that type of thing was something that I really wanted to learn about. And I know in my own life, I was having some financial struggles in the beginning, and I was doing everything that everyone told me I was supposed to do, and I was still struggling.
Meaning, like you had a job and you were, paying your bills, all that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Well, it was. Yeah. Actually, I had 3 jobs. I was working 100 hours a week. My wife was working 2 jobs. It was just crazy. It wasn't about not working. It was, I had the education, I had the job, I was doing everything I was supposed to. I didn't feel fulfilled. I wasn't happy, and we were struggling. And so I was like, okay, there's got to be something else besides just doing the work. There's got to be something else besides just following this strategy. And so I began investigating it.
Wow. So you started looking into that. What sort of investment vehicle? I mean, did you start investing, or did you start down the psychology route, or which way did you go?
Well, I started investing right off the bat because, again, that was one of the things that I had been taught and I had been told was, all right, you've got to get your money to make money. You've got to go out and create. You've got to leverage. You hear the thing all over and over with, until you can make money while you're sleeping, you'll never be free. And so, it's like, all right, I got to invest. I got to leverage. And so I had invested in commodities. I had a lot of fun and success with commodities. We went into options. Then the phrase that they're not making any more dirt, so you want to go into real estate. And so I was doing real estate investing and just really all around. And I still kept coming into the same challenges that I had when I had a job or I was doing that. And it just kept building over and over and over. Okay.
All right. So how long did you do that investing?
Oh, years. I really enjoyed the commodities were fun for me. The real estate investing I enjoyed, but it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
The commodities I felt was fun.
What did you trade in the commodities?
I did a lot of corn. I did, a little bit of oil and gas. I stuck away from that, but really corn was one of my favorites.
Wow.
Maybe that's because, I lived in Iowa and I went to University of Iowa. I don't know. There's a joke there, I'm sure. But the corn was something that I had a lot of success with.
Very cool. Interesting. Okay. And then I interrupted you. You also did some options. What did you do options on?
It was just pretty much whatever. It was more day trading and things. I tried some different options programs and software things. The same things that all of us see is like, you see the late night infomercial, and you're like, okay, I'm going to that seminar. I'm going to do that. Yeah. And, so yeah, it was a fun experience, but I'd say the most fun that I had and the most enjoyable, and I had success in all of them, but the most fun was with the commodities.
Okay, very interesting. All right, so you're working 100 hours a week, 3 jobs. It's not paying off. You're like, I got to figure out a way to get my money to start leveraging for me. So you start investing. What happened?
Well, really, I kept bumping up against the ceiling. It was just like I could never seem to get over the hump, whether it was through investing or it was through my jobs or whatever. It was like I had there was a ceiling here, and I kept hitting it. And when I would get above that, because it would be almost like a roller coaster. And when I would get above that ceiling, I would lose it all. And it's like, what the hell? Why is this still going on? Why I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. I'm reading the books. I'm going to the seminars. I'm following the programs. I'm listening to the advice, and I can't seem to get above this certain level.
Meaning would you actually lose money then? So you'd be growing, and then you just take a big loss?
And I'd take a big loss and move it all the way back down to where I started. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes I'd go below where I started, and I'd have to build it back up again.
Yeah.
And it was this constant roller coaster cycle.
Wow. This took place. You saw this, whether it's commodities or options, you saw it in a wide range of instruments.
Oh yeah. It was the same pattern. It didn't matter what I was doing. It didn't matter if it was real estate or commodities, options, Forex. I played with Forex for a while. The same pattern over and over and over. And so I knew that there was, it couldn't be the instruments. It couldn't be what I was doing. It had to be something else.
That's interesting. So the problem was, let's see if I can recast it. So the problem is you would get to a certain level of success, but then that success would be lost regardless of the instrument. That was the pattern.
Exactly. It was one of those, I had no problem making money. I had a problem keeping it.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. So have you ever observed this in other people?
Quite often. And in fact, it's the 2 biggest challenges that I encounter when I'm talking to people are number 1 is they're not able to make it. And then 2, they can't hang on to it. And those things, and this leads to that roller cycle. This leads to the up and the down. And it also becomes a very emotional toll on people when you keep losing all the money that you just invested. It's like, what's going on?
So there's this, I got to believe there's this impact then on family and relationships, other things like that you've noticed?
Oh, well, I'll give you my own life. The impact on my marriage was incredible. In fact, we've been close to divorce more times than I care to count. The other thing, I was 320 pounds at one point, so it affected my health. And my stress. Now I'm 200 pounds now. So, definitely a big shift there.
Yeah.
It affected my relationship with my relationship with my kids. It led to, there were so many things that would go on to, it affects all different areas of your life. Now, I'll use myself as an example, throw myself under the bus. I would drink, 4 or 5 nights a week just because I didn't want to even think about it. And I was working so hard, I deserved to be able to blow some steam off was the thought that I had. And of course,
that was the justification.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, you're working 100 hours a week. I deserve to go out and drink. I deserve to go out or just sit here at the TV and stare at it and numb myself down. It's an interesting pattern.
Yeah, so that in and of itself starts just to become its own self-destructive behavior, which isn't really helping then, right?
Well, exactly, and that's one of the things that ended up happening. Now, again, I'm using myself as an example, but there's so many people that I've worked with that have that same thing, because it's a thing. We try to sedate so we don't have to think about the failure that we just had.
And so this went on for many years, I take it then, because you observed this from real estate to multiple different financial instruments, right?
Oh yeah. This was going on for, I'd say, at least 10 years.
Wow. At what point along the way did you wake up and realize or recognize the pattern? How far along, how many times, going through that did you eventually realize, hey, there's a pattern here?
Well, it's funny how it all came about. I was working one of my jobs, and I was actually I was a manager at a restaurant, and we'd closed, and I was mopping the floor as a manager. And I remember as I was mopping the floor, I was like, you know what? I could make a career out of this. I could do this. And no sooner did I say that I could do this, that I could make a career out of this, did a voice in my head say, is this all you're meant for? And I was like, wait a minute. And that shifted right then and there. All right, I got to make a change. I got to figure out what's going on. And so then I dedicated myself to finding out, all right, it's not the instrument. It's not the investment. It's not none of that, because people make money. People make money you can make money doing anything well. It doesn't matter what the instrument is. So there has to be something else that was causing this roller coaster.
So you've gone through multiple iterations. You're sweeping the floor or mopping it. You have this moment of sort of coming to yourself and realizing, wait, this is happening. So what did you start doing at that point?
Well, I started looking at, going to any and all seminars. I went to, this one where you walk on fire. I went to all these different things, trying to like.
Was that like a Tony Robbins thing?
It would be a Tony Robbins thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was just like, okay, there's got to be something else. There's got to be another key here. So I then focused in on the psychology. I focused in on the beliefs, on who I was and what did I deserve, and what were my beliefs around money? What were my beliefs around success? What were my beliefs around, all these different things, until I could figure out what I actually thought. Until I knew that, I really couldn't make a change, because really my thoughts and my beliefs were what was determining all of my actions.
So it's your mindset. It's your thought patterns. That matters more than method, more than instrument. That's what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure we have all met somebody that, I hate to say it this way, but I'm going to, that doesn't really have all their faculties about them. They're not the smartest person in the world, and yet they're just killing it financially. Mm-hmm. And how is that possible? I'm smarter than this person. I work harder than this person. I have more contacts than this person. How are they so successful and I'm not? Well, they have a different mindset.
It's a mindset. It's an intangible that's difficult to quantify. What in your mind? What is mindset? How can you make that tangible? Is it the attitude one has about oneself or one's own beliefs? Or can you talk about that a little bit? What comprises mindset?
Sure. So there's actually several different things that go into mindset. But one of the questions really to ask yourself is you got to find out what your meanings are. And so I've got this thing, where I call the money matrix. And one of the first step of the money matrix is called the meaning matrix. And so what are your meanings surrounding money? And until you know what that is, and it's not just money, it's saving, it's budgeting, it's investing, it's, all these different areas, and what money means, and what wealth and prosperity and scarcity and all these different things. And based on those meanings, most people, when I would ask them, what does money mean to you? They, I know what money means. Okay, well then tell me. And until we actually verbalize it, most people don't know what they believe about money, what they believe about wealth. And to give you an example, I was working with one individual, and I said, all right, I'm going to say a sentence fragment, and I want you to finish the sentence with whatever the first thing that comes to mind is. And he said, all right. And I said, okay, people with money are, and he immediately said dangerous. And I said, dangerous? He says, yes, people with money are dangerous.
Wow.
Okay, well, that's interesting. And of course, it wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah.
I could have come up with, any other different thing, but in his mind, people with money are dangerous.
Huh.
And I asked him, I said, so are you dangerous? He says, no. And I said, I'm guessing you don't have the amount of money that you want. And he says, well, I don't, but how did you know? Now, I knew for a couple reasons. Number one, he had called me, so I knew he didn't have what he wanted. But the second is, if he didn't view himself as dangerous, and people with money are dangerous, there's no way his mindset, there's no way his psychology is going to allow him to go and create a bunch of money. Because it isn't in his identity. It's not who he views himself as. So he either has to change his identity of that he views himself as dangerous, or he has to change the meaning and belief that people with money are dangerous. Because the two can't live together.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So, Todd, when you were going through this process yourself, sort of the self-realization of your recurring patterns, what was it that you learned about yourself in that process? So for this particular gentleman, he equated money with danger, or people that had money were dangerous. You talked about your own pattern, right? And that you would get money but then lose it. Do you mind sharing what was it that you discovered in your own journey that said, oh, I'm at a certain point or a certain level here now. Was it that I don't deserve it, or what was it that would ultimately cause that to turn around and lose money?
Well, for me, there was several. In fact, I've identified in other people, I've identified over 100 different beliefs that people have that actually keep them broke. But one of the things for me, number one, was my parents always fought about money. They were always fighting about money, and so I grew up watching my parents fight, and the fights always came down to money.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my mind, I was like, all right, money equals pain.
Okay, gotcha.
And that was one of the things that I grew up with. Then I would see lots of successful people, and it was almost like the class warfare. And I would listen to how my mother would refer to these people. And it was like, okay, so people with money, I'm not like them. I'm not good enough. They're better than me, and all these other things. So then it became a deservedness. But I'll give you another thing that we happen on this, and this isn't just with me. This is everybody. But see, we are programmed daily for failure. And I want you to think about this. I want you to think of the most popular movies that are out right now, and who the villain is. And the villain is always the one with money.
Yeah. That's right.
And then when the villain isn't the one with money, what you find is the people that are rich, they ended up stepping on people. They ended up hurting people in order to become rich. It's never that they did it easily. And then on the other side, you look at one of the most popular sitcoms right now is it's Two Broke Girls. And so Two Broke Girls, and so we laugh, we enjoy, we have fun with people that are struggling with money, with people that are struggling, and so we identify with that. And so we have fun and excitement with people who are broke, and we equate and what we're watching and what we're reading and what we're seeing in the news and on and on and on is those with money are evil. And this continues to program into us.
So you've had some training in NLP and other things like that as well, making you sensitive to that sort of programming, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. NLP, neurosemantics, meta coaching, hypnosis, timeline therapy, all these different things that really focus in, and it goes back to the psychology, and it goes back to the meanings that we put, and goes back to where how you view the world. The beliefs that we have, and they really drive the behavior. So yes, I'm very in tune to the language patterns that people use.
So now that you've experienced this, you went through this journey of seeing your parents have challenges, fighting about it, sort of this internal programming that said people with money are either snobbish or they're not good, or they're higher class, right? And we don't deserve, what it is they've got. So this sort of subliminal programming that took place, combination of that then influenced your patterns of investing and trading to a point where you'd realize, oh, I'm going to get to this certain financial level, and it would permit you to be making decisions that were not to your benefit. Even though you knew better, something stronger than your own, in the moment decision making was more powerful enough to make you make bad choices.
Well, it's to the point of I didn't know that was driving me. I mean, think about it. Have you, or I'm sure you or your listeners have ever said something, and after you said it, you're like, "Why did I even say that? Where did that come from?" It just happened. Or maybe you did something, and after you did it, and you're like, "I can't believe I did that."
That was the dumbest thing. Right? Been there. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's because, again, of the programming and things that we have in the back of our mind. And so this is the same thing with trading. And so I would do all the analysis. I would sit down and I would look at I'd look at the charts, and I'd do everything that I was supposed to. And I would see exactly what it was that I wanted to see. And okay, this is it. This is the perfect trade. And then I'd wait.
Not actually execute, huh?
I would not execute. Well, I would execute, but not when I knew I was supposed to. It would be a delay. I would wait too long to get in. And then the other side of it is like, okay, all right, here's my rules. Here's where it's time to get out. This is what I know. And then all of a sudden I start arguing with myself. I start throwing in emotion. It's going to come back. It's going to come back. So I stay into the trade longer than I'm supposed to, going against my own rules, simply because there's something else guiding my behavior.
Interesting. So over time, as you observed this yourself, then you got fascinated with the psychology of it. You spent some time then figuring out some solutions around this, right?
Oh yeah, you had to, because there was obviously more to it than what I was seeing. Because again, and it was one of the most frustrating things that there is, and your listeners may have gone through this as well, is you do all the research, you go and you do all the learnings, you take the courses, you hire a mentor, you do all these things that you're supposed to do, and you're still failing. And it's like, how am I still struggling when everybody else is succeeding when they're doing this? And then, of course, that reinforces the belief of maybe I don't deserve this.
Right. Fascinating. Okay, so you've since got now sort of speeding forward. Then you went through all this discovery and some solution preparation. So today you actually work with people because you found those patterns to help break the bad patterns, right? You found the solutions, et cetera. And we're not going to talk about that. In fact, I want to let the listeners know. Please join us for the next episode of the podcast that I have with Todd, because he's going to tell us some of the key components of the solution that he figured out to break this pattern. But can you talk about the discovery process of finding the solution?
Sure. So there was basically, it was like, okay, what I'm doing is not working. So I've got to go in a different direction. I've got to take all the things that I thought I knew, and I really started questioning everything. And so I'll give you an example. I'll go back to my weight. I mentioned that at one point I was 320 pounds. But here's the thing about that is at that point, I didn't believe I was fat. Now, I know a lot of people go, how can you be 320 pounds and not believe you're fat? Well, it was just, I didn't believe I was fat, because I could walk down the street and look at someone else and say, you see that dude over there? That dude's fat. I'm just a big boy. Right. And there was always someone more. And so if I didn't believe I was fat, why would I do anything different? Why would I change? So the same thing happens when we're talking about investing. The same thing happens when we're talking about money. If we don't believe that there's something wrong with our beliefs, that our beliefs are not working, why would we ever change? And so when I finally realized that I was fat, it was one of those, it was like an aha moment. But what ended up happening is then I questioned every other belief that I had. I said, right, if I was really fat and I didn't believe I was fat, what else do I believe that is also not true?
Oh, wow.
And so I started questioning everything. And then that led me into this money thing. It's like, okay, my beliefs about money have got to be screwed. because there's no way I can keep doing this over and over and over. And so I started questioning my beliefs about money. And when that happened, life changed. When my beliefs changed, when they came out into the open, my beliefs changed and my results changed.
And you figured out a way, once you identified the beliefs, you found a way to adjust and alter those beliefs?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've all already experienced this with a belief. I mean, think about your own life. Have you ever believed something and then later changed your mind?
Absolutely.
So we've all already done it. But the thing is, we haven't done it consciously. We haven't made a desired, you know what? This belief isn't working. Why do I believe this? And what would be a better belief? What would be a belief in its place that would allow me to achieve what it is that I want to achieve?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing that you figured out. So you've ultimately organized this into a system, and you help people to make those mindset shifts, those belief adjustments.
Exactly. And what we did is really, it's not about my beliefs. And I think that's an important distinction, because, people say, well, what should I believe here? Well, if I tell you what you should believe there, then it's based on my own values, my own beliefs, my own experiences, and might not work for you. And so what I do is I help people identify their beliefs, whatever they are. And then I say, okay, now is this belief? So like with the guy with the people with money are dangerous. It was simply, is that belief empowering you, disempowering you? Is that belief working or not working? Is that belief helping you get what it is that you want in life, or is it maybe getting in the way? And then this guy said, oh yeah, that's definitely not helping. That's not working. That's not doing what I want. It's okay. So what would be a better belief there? And so we allow them to choose the beliefs. Now, is it that easy? No. There's obviously a process you got to go through there. But first, you got to identify where you are and where you want to go.
Right. Absolutely. That's Todd. That's an incredible story. I really appreciate you taking the time to introduce us to this process. I can hardly wait for our next conversation, where you take us through some of the key components of that process and of your solution. So Todd, just before we wrap up here, any final comments that you'd like to share?
Well, the thing about it is, whenever I talk about wealth, people immediately think that I'm talking about money. Now, money is a part of wealth, but it's only a part. And so what I talk about, and I think is extremely important, especially when we're talking about investing, when we're talking about finances, is everything that we focus in on finances. And you hit it earlier, is you asked about, what other areas of my life did these patterns show up in, is we're talking about wealth of body, wealth of, our finances, wealth of our marriage, wealth of our, our relationships, wealth with our kids, wealth in all areas of life.
Mm.
And so these patterns show up everywhere. And so when I'm talking about wealth, when I'm talking about abundance, when I'm talking about prosperity, I'm talking about all areas of your life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not simply talking about finances. Again, finances is a part of it, but it's only a part.
What I like about that is that those same patterns, I'm going to assume that you talked about earlier, whether you were doing stuff with investing or whatever, those same patterns can exhibit themselves in all of our relationships or anything, right? Because everything that we're going to do is based on that belief system, right?
Oh, exactly. I mean, because that belief drives our behavior. And see, and that's again, one of the things that I talk about is, when people reach out to me, they reach out to me because they want different results. They want better results than they're already getting. Well, and real quick, results are based on the actions that you take. Well, the actions that you take are based on the amount of potential that you tap into. Well, what determines the amount of potential that you're going to tap into? That's your beliefs. That's your beliefs are going to allow you to determine how much potential. The potential determines your actions. The actions determine your results. And ironically, your results then reinforce your beliefs.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Thanks for sharing your wisdom here with us today, Todd. Really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to our continued conversation in our next episode. Also would like to invite everyone to come join Todd, myself, and others in Profitable Wealth Strategies. That's the Facebook group that we're in, and having these and other related conversations. Todd, thanks again for joining. Everyone, this is Grant Larson. for Financial Investing Radio. And until next time, trade safe.
Thank you for joining Grant on Financial Investing Radio. Remember to subscribe and leave feedback. Don't forget to download your free roadmap to high probability financial control before you make an investment decision. Visit financialinvestingradio.com now.